Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Cap Recovery Center. This is all recovery meeting for the day. And the article out here it says, "What does recovery mean?" It said, "Depends on who you ask." According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, recovery from alcohol and drug problems is a process of change through which an individual achieves absence and improved health, wellness, and quality of life. This seems obvious to most of us today, but in 2005, when the agency was tasked with developing a definition and principles of recovery, this signaled a monotonous shift recovery as a process and not an end stage, and critically, recovery as a goal that goes well beyond absence. Recovery is a journey to overall wellness. It is not only attainable, but also desirable. Four signs that let individuals know they are in recovery include: I can address problems as they happen without using and without getting stressed out. I have at least one person I can be completely honest with. I have a personal boundaries and know which issues are mine and which ones belong to others. I like that one. I take the time to restore my energy, physical and emotional, when I am tired. And here's some of the stages. So the stages of recovery, there is no universal agreement on the stages of recovery from addiction. For example, the National Institute on Drug Abuse describes the stages of recovery as early absence, maintaining absence, and advanced recovery. Addiction.com simply aims to address the main stages and transitions that most people in recovery go through, while all recognizing that many people will travel through these stages more than once. In their slip relapse, for example, these three stages of recovery are the first 90 days, early recovery, and maintained recovery. And it says, what does this all mean? It says the meaning of recovery continues to vary depending on who you ask. Among people who experience it firsthand, recovery is a second chance at a new life, a process toward overall wellness where the quality of life satisfaction increases as stress decreases. It is about learning how to live and applying principles in your life. Instead of defects of character, some held on to for so long to just self-protect and survive. I can definitely relate to that. It says, instead of the defects of character, some held on to for so long to self-protect and survive. A lot of things that it talked about is holding on to is like being in like survival mode. And a lot of defects that we do hold on to is, for me anyway, is to mainly get what I wanted, and that was drugs and alcohol. I lied, I cheated, I stole. I was lying, conniving, sneaky, right? And it's just some of the things we had to do, and to get what we wanted. And that's something we don't do today in recovery. I mean, people can do a lot of these things, but like if you want to change and grow and you want to be in the process of recovery, it's about changing attitudes and behaviors. And that's something that takes work. It definitely takes work. It doesn't happen overnight, but we have to change the way we live, the way we think, what we say, what we do. It's definitely a learning process. And this article I have here, I can relate to big time because this is like a story of somebody, and it's about her like journey and what she's doing for her recovery, and I can relate to it. So it says someone who is living the life. It says recovery means to me that I can have the life I dreamed of. However, I never thought it would be possible. See, right off the get go, I can relate. I never thought the life I have today. I couldn't even dream. I couldn't even imagine it, and I didn't think it was ever possible for me. It could be for somebody else, but it was not for me. So recovery means to me that I'm finally finding the true me who I'm meant to be. Recovery means discovering our purpose without pain. Recovery means to me, I actually like whom I'm becoming. I'm still on baby steps in early recovery with 96 days clean. I began 5 minutes at a time. It was all I could handle. It was a long and true struggle. I don't remember when I went to an hour or just for today. It seems the more I learn, the stronger I get. Yeah, like this story, this person is talking about, it definitely it's relatable to me, and I think a lot of us can get a lot of out of it. And it talks about like um, the stages like early recovery, like stay on today, on a 5 minutes basis, maybe an hour, then, the minutes turn to hours, hours turn to days, and days turn to months. And, as long as we can focus in the moment and just stay in the here and now. It says recovery means to me gaining life skills, new ways to handle my past trauma, new ways to live a clean and sober life. I'm learning I can live a clean life and be happy. Clean and clear headed, as we all know, taking the first step was the hardest thing we ever did in our life. However, in starting my recovery journey, I have discovered my inner strength. It was always there. I covered it up with addiction. Yeah, so it says, however, in starting my recovery journey, I discovered my inner strength, and like I didn't think I had. I look at that as like having assets. I didn't think I had anything positive, or I didn't think I had assets. I didn't think I had good qualities of myself. Like I didn't think I had anything good to offer. Right? I thought I was. Full of a bunch of character defects, and I was, but that's not the only thing I was filled with, right? So when I first got into recovery, it took time to see the assets for myself, and still to this day, like I said, it's definitely a process. It's definitely a learning process, and recovery brought out my assets, right? And I start to change, I start to grow, and I start to work on things in my defects slowly but surely. Some of them go away, some of them come arise, but I know I can work on myself and let my assets shine more over the defects. Because we don't get perfect, we just get better. But I have more assets today than anything. Um, and I can apply these principles that are taught in recovery to the defects that do arise. I can apply these principles in all of my affairs, right? So I have coping skills, I have tools, I have solid foundation, I have a sponsor, I have mentors, I have people that can help me and guide me through this process of recovery because, I can't go through this process alone. And it says recovery means learning to use that strength and discover your true self. At times, we felt so alone. How comforting to know God, higher power, never left us. It is just that ran to avoid and block out the reason we chose to use. Yeah. So it says confronting to know God and or a higher power never left us. So I've learned to build a relationship with my higher power, and which I choose to call God. But everybody has a different kind of background. But I chose to avoid, my higher power. I chose to avoid the help that was offered to me, and I was very self-centered. I was very self-willed. I was self-righteous. Right. I was very rebellious. I always try to do things on my own. It was my way or no way, and there was no way I can get better, right, and change and grow, or even first stop using drugs and alcohol because I tried to do things on my own for so long. And it just ended in the same ways, jails and institution, and ultimately I was going to die. We came very close, right? So I've learned to build a relationship with a higher power, and knowing that He was always with me, and He never forsake me or left me. It's just about in recovery is building that relationship back, and I just chose to avoid people, places, and things by using drugs and alcohol. working on myself, I seen it was a big thing of avoidance. It keeps coming up. I was always avoiding things, and I always want to do things my way. So recovery means not feeling dragged down, depressed, alone, hopeless. I have recovery skills that will last us a lifetime. We can live, be happy, and succeed. Recovery means never missing out on life. It was so easy to isolate when I was using, so no one seen the true me. With outpatient classes and meetings, I have learned to be honest about myself and forgive myself. I like that. Yeah, you start to learn, and you start to be honest, and you start to forgive yourself. That's, I think, the most big thing that we have to do is start to love ourselves, and start to accept ourselves, and start to forgive ourselves. And then we start to recovery process goes from us to others, right? I think it's crucial in early recovery is to get better with self, because if I'm not okay, nothing else is okay, right? So, find those assets, right? And start to forgive myself from the things I've seen, the things I've done, the things I've been through, the things I created, to forgive myself and accept what I've done. And so I can move forward. If I can't accept and forgive the things I've done and been through, there's no way I can move forward into the future. And I'm not enjoying the present, right? If I can't just get over the past. So I've learned through working on myself is healing and dealing and letting go of the stuff I've created in my past. It says recovery opens so many possibilities that would have never been available to us. Recovery means we can be productive members of society, not the addict or alcoholic. Yep. So it's about breaking down that stigma, right? Or breaking down my perception of who I am and what the disease of addiction has done to me, right? Because I can stay stuck of like, well, I did this, well, what was me? And a lot of this stuff is valid, right? I've created a mountain, and I created this big old wall so I couldn't see over it, the other side of recovery, because I created this mess, right? I'll give you a little bit of it. Like I had warrants and fines, and these broken relationships. I had just a lot of stuff and a lot of baggage I came into recovery with, and I used that to as an excuse not to get better, right? How am I going to fix all this? How am I going to amend all this stuff? Time. It takes time, and we talk about all the time in recovery. Recovery doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, right? If I take even talked about earlier, baby steps, right? One day at a time. Not focus on tomorrow and letting go of the past. If I can stay here and now and do the best I can, I have a great chance and a great shot of staying in sobriety. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, good. You have one of these pamphlets here we're reading.
Oh, sure.
The article I picked is "What Does Recovery Mean?" And basically, it's a little article here, and it's about this person's journey. And I'm on the last page here if you want to go to it.
Okay.
It says recovery means never hurting those we love and love us by using or drinking. Recovery means my children can sleep at night, not worry about mama. So it's somebody's story, which I can really relate to. And it says recovery means not hurting those we love, and that's something I think a lot of us do. We hurt the ones closest to us. You know what I mean? Because we, in the back of our head, I think we know as they'll forgive us, or they still love and care about us, and which they probably do, but it's still not the right to use and abuse that. But yeah, I definitely truly believe that we hurt the ones closest to us. I know for me, if somebody was using drugs and alcohol in my family and they hurt me, that's, it's going to be a process to amend that relationship. So I understand um, the process that we have to do to go through to amend a lot of these relationships. And it takes time. And it talks about recovery means my children can sleep at night. On the other end of it, I know like my mom can sleep at night, because I know she had many sleepless nights of like worrying and is he dead or where's he at or is he locked up, So, there's a lot of trauma that I inflicted on people. What's your name?
Catherine.
Catherine.
Katie.
I'm sorry, my name's Carl. Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
It says, at 50 years old, I am recovering. I thought that was so shameful. Recovery has taught me it is never too late. We do recover. That's okay. So it seems like she's 50 years old, and she thought mostly it was too late to start the recovery process, and it's never too late, right? Because um, I didn't think I was going to make it out of my 20s. So like it's never too late to get better. If you want to stay in that mindset, that's going to give you the excuse to not to move forward with the recovery process. Because I know for me, the disease of addiction, for me, once it's dead, right? So it's like it can use any excuse or anything to creep into to tell you not to get better or not to seek help. So like that alone, I'm 50 years old and I think it's too late to start the recovery process. That alone will run you out the door. So we have to change our perception. We have to change our mindset, and like it takes time. So recovery means we do not have to face this alone, and that's a big one. Yeah, we need to be around like-minded people. We need support. We need a solid foundation of people, maybe a sponsor, a mentor, or somebody that you can trust and confide in. So it's like we need people because the only reason why I got the things I got today in recovery is because of other people helping me. Because recovery is the only high that keeps getting better. Yeah, hey man, it does get better. It doesn't get perfect, but it does get better. If you put your best foot forward, like, and you start to put the work in, life does get better. Sometimes it don't, right? Things happen. That's where we apply the principles. Like, because I get clean and sober doesn't mean life is going to get perfect, right? I stopped using drugs and alcohol. I can't think like life is still not going to happen, right? Think you're going to have things happen. We're going to lose loved ones. We're going to have deaths in the family. We're going to have health issues and stuff like that. It just doesn't go away. We just recovery means that we have better coping skills and tools that we can use and people that we can trust that the guys can help us through. Because listen, I think in my early recovery, like I had the toughest times. I was losing loved ones left and right. So like grief is it's powerful, and not just dealing with my own stuff, but dealing with my family and friends and stuff like that. Can be tough, real tough. It says recovery has taught me to tell my ego to lower its voice while I discover myself. Yeah, pride and ego is a big one, man. I think still to this day, it's something um, I've heard a saying. It's like, I better be humble or I'll be humiliated. That's a good one. Like I gotta humble myself because if I'm changing and growing, if somebody else is not in the stage of where I'm at, I can't judge and I can't project on people. I have to stay in my lane and let my pride and ego go. And it's work in progress. Work in progress. So recovery has taught me never to be ashamed of the scars life has left us. A scar means that pearl is over, the wound is closing. Mm. I don't know too much about this one, but I think many of us do have a lot of scars. It's just basically like
Proof of lessons learned.
yeah, yep. And like as a score, I think it was like trauma. We all have like a lot of trauma. We have a lot of wounds and that need to be closed up, and that's through working through recovery. Because it's just not about I've learned the drugs and alcohol. In the beginning, that was the biggest thing is putting down drugs and alcohol and losing that obsession and desire to use. But it's a lot deeper than that. You know, at the beginning, that was the most major symptom. But like now, through the process of recovery, it's like staying stopped, right? Instead of acting out of my defects and treating myself with respect and treating others with respect and not creating chaos and conflict and not um, having horrible negative relationships and having more positivity. So it's a lot of things, changing my perception, my mindset, being open and honest and trustworthy, something that I wasn't. So it's a lot deeper than just not putting drugs and down alcohol. You agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to continue to stop you not using drugs and alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't have to put drugs and alcohol down once, right? Now it's continue to not repeat the same mistake over and over again. That's the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
So recovery has taught me addiction cannot win unless we quit. Recovery means that not an option. If you fall 6 times yet, get you seven. If you fall 6 times, get you seven. Oh, I don't know how that saying goes, but I guess it's basically like if you fall down 6 times, like you gotta still keep getting up. Yeah. So basically, not don't quit. Don't quit. And my supervisor tells me like, one thing I did do right is I kept on trying. Right.
Oh, I think it's saying you,
Yeah.
well, it cannot win unless we quit.
Mm-hmm.
So if we fall 6 times, that's okay.
Get
We
up.
get a seventh or an eighth or a
Yeah.
ninth, or it just keeps going.
We don't stop. We can't give up. If we give up, then we're pretty much digging our own grave. So it's like keep trying. I know I wasn't the first time where like I went to treatment so many times. I went to jail so many times, and I've been to the psych doctor, and all kinds of stuff. I tried all kinds of methods, and I never say they don't work, right? I just wasn't willing to put the work in. You would hear people say, "Oh, well,
You
that
gotta
works."
want to, too.
Yeah, you gotta want it. Like it's not like I can't say, well, this treatment facility I went to or this and that. I can place blame on things. That's why I didn't get it or didn't get better at that moment. No, I just wasn't willing to put the work
Or weren't ready.
in. Or weren't ready. Simply as that, I wasn't ready. You have to be willing. You have to be ready. If you're not, listen, I can give you everything. If you're not willing to take it, then it's just like it's not going to work.
Yeah, never.
And it's sad because a lot of us are really good people, really good people. And I didn't see that for myself. And I talked about a little bit earlier about like defects and assets. Like I know when I got in recovery, like I was full of defects, and still can be, but I didn't see any of the assets of myself,
Mhm.
right? Because I was always locked and loaded in the character defects. And recovery brings out the assets in you, which I never knew was there. It says recovery has taught me unity is power. I can relate. Yes. And like I said earlier, like the reason why I'm here today is from others. People help me until I start to help myself. I couldn't stand on my 2 feet. I was not a man. I wasn't trustworthy. I was not reliable. I wasn't accountable. I wasn't hardworking. The list goes on. Yeah, and the list goes on. So like other recovering addicts helped me through this process to get where I'm at today. I cannot go through. I don't think anybody, not just in recovery, but in life in general, nobody can go through life alone.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of life is that? You know?
That's the point.
Yeah, we need help. We need support. We need people that we can trust and confide in. You know, because if I stay here, if I stay locked and loaded in my own stuff, it's not going to end well.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Sure.
Since recovery has taught me addiction does not define me. You see, this why I picked this article because I can relate to everything. I can relate to everything on here, and I don't let my disease of addiction, who I was in my past, define who I am today because I'm not that person. You know, I am not that person. But it does happen to people, like
Becomes
people,
their identity.
yeah, you put the drugs and alcohol down, but they are still doing the bad behaviors. Their mindset is the same. You know, we have to change all that stuff. I don't want to be that person that I was. You know, if I'm going to change, I'm going to change it. Like, first stop using, but like, change my character. You know, change my identity, become someone different. You know,
Mm-hmm.
recovery only gets better. Yes, it does. And then when it's not so good, I have support. I have people in my life. As simple as that. I know, because for me, I come from a background, it's all about me and what I want. I always want to feel good. I always want things my way. But things happen and things don't go my way, right? So, and that's where applying principles and knowing that these feelings and emotions or these situations shall pass. They don't last forever, right? So it's like, we're gonna have good days, we're gonna have bad days. It's just part of life, and that's where
For everyone, period, part of life.
I'm no different than you are. We're just human.
Yeah.
We're human, and my journey is going to be different than yours, but it's kind of the same because we all go through. I heard a saying like everybody gets a turn. You know, we all go through the same kind of stuff. It might just impact us a little different, but
everybody's got something.
Yeah.
If it's not a substance, it's a person they're addicted to, or literally everyone.
Yep.
Something.
Or they have some kind of mental health struggling with, or a family member. It's not always about the drugs and alcohol. There's a lot of other addictions.
So many other
ones.
Working out.
It's maybe it was just for us because it was for me, I must just say, it was the major problem with substance, right? But now, like in recovery, like I like food. I like food. So it's like, that's another issue I have to address, right? But I've been working on it.
People, foodies.
Yeah. And it's about mind, body, and spirit. Like, if we can focus on that, because I've been going to the gym. It's not just about, I always get back to this. It's not always about the substance, right? How do we physically feel? Are we mentally stable, and are we working our mental state? Because we know, drugs and alcohol go hand in hand with mental health. You might not have mental health before you use, but I guarantee you're gonna have some mental health after you start using. So it's like, and it's sad because I see people that don't come back from it. Their mental state part of it. I see the person was one way before, and now they're completely different and stuck like that. That's a scary thing. Dying is one. That's scary, but like not coming back. That's
Changes your brain.
Yeah, totally different person. Totally different person. It's like, wow. That's where I'm very grateful and I'm very blessed. Like, if it wasn't the drugs and alcohol was going to kill me, it was going to be the lifestyle. People I was hanging around with, gangbangers, all that stuff. Never know I was going to hit with a straight bullet. So like, I'm physically okay. Thank God. And like,
it's just changing your habits, your friends, your everything.
People, places, things. If you touch on those three things, man, you can go a long way that way. It says recovery. Where we go here? Recovery has taught me It is scary, but so is remaining the same as we were. Oh man, so that's something else because I would stay stuck because I was feared up who I can become without the drugs and alcohol. Like what am I going to uncover? So the insanity of disease addiction is like, let me just stay here and create more chaos and more conflict and almost lose my life for a couple of hours, a couple of dollar bag or whatever it is, whatever we struggle with. It's easier to do that than to stop using and trying to find the good in life. So it's like
Change is scary.
it is. Uh, we don't like to not know the outcome of things and the unknown, stuff like that. Where it can be a lot of it's fear based. A lot of it's fear based, but like we have to press through that stuff. We have to work through that kind of stuff. We can't just stay stuck. If we stay stuck, we can back ourselves out the door. What's scary? I've been through, like, what am I scared of, or what fears do I have? Listen, I've already been to the bottom. I've already been to the bottom, and so I already experienced that. So what's so scary, or what am I feared up about to like better my life? The crazy thinking.
Well, when you come out of it all, after all you feel invincible. Like there's nothing, throw anything at me, I got you now. Like, I'm good.
Because we build confidence.
I am.
We build self-confidence. We build a solid foundation. We start to trust and love and care about ourselves and see that we can deal with problems today without using drugs and alcohol.
And then after it all, you're impervious to pain because you've been through all the worst of the worst.
Yeah, like what else can you throw at me?
Still here, now it's like.
Yeah, what else can you throw?
Nothing.
Yeah. Our experience shows that like we can get through anything. So it's like we've already been through the dumps. So like now, like
I'm scared of nothing now.
Yeah.
Shoot.
But what recovery's taught me too is like seeing that for yourself, but then also giving back to others. You know what I mean? Because that was given to me. It's showing them that you can get through this without using drugs and alcohol. Like you can do it. It says recovery has taught me where we are is not who we are. Yeah. So where we are is not who we are. So we can be stuck in a bad whatever situation, but it doesn't define like or reflect on who I am. Me acting out can reflect on who I am. So it's like I have these coping skills and stuff like that to deal with these situations because I think a lot of us are really reactive. I can still be, but where we're at in life, it doesn't define who I am today. Recovery has taught me I must have a plan. Give it a deadline, write it down, look at it every day like a bucket list. Once you reach your goal, set another one. And I think we talk about in recovery is like short-term goals and long-term goals. And we want to set, I think in the beginning, is set short ones. We don't want to set unrealistic expectations or unrealistic goals that we're going to set ourselves up. Then we can get discouraged, right? I just go with the flow nowadays. I ain't gonna lie, like setting goals and stuff like that. I usually, if I'm gonna, I'll say it and I'll just work towards it, right? So it's like
I like basic ones and exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to set nothing.
You know what you're going for, but I don't try to
Keep
stress
it
myself
simple.
out with a mile-long list.
Keep it simple. You don't want to overcomplicate it because then you get frustrated. You can the case of I don't know to say it, but the efforts, right? You know what I mean? So it's like I can do long
You
term.
gotta have a case of it.
Yep. They always arise. They always come up.
You need them sometimes. Sometimes they help you.
Yep. And it can benefit you because you're like, I'm just not going to engage in this right now. That's the best thing sometimes is like when things happen in recovery or in life in general, like the best thing you can do is nothing, right? So it's like, not today. I can definitely have to work on that. It's like,
Less is more.
Yeah, I'd rather not do this today, you know? And I guarantee because I can make make a bad situation worse any given time,
Mhm.
you know? So if I don't engage or just say, nah, I'm done, like not right now.
Not today.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a better outcome. This is the last part here. It says the definition of recovery is described as a journey to overall wellness. Though everyone's road to recovery looks different, it leads to a life of strength, experience, and insight. If you are seeking help to begin your journey, we encourage you to reach out to Family Life Center and utilize resources we have readily available. We also encourage those in recovery to share your stories and follow us for more of our recovery stories because you are not alone. Man, yeah, 'cause my journey is going to be different than yours. And it said the definition of recovery describes it as a journey to overall wellness. So like it's on many levels of a journey and what to work on. And first and foremost, we have to put drugs and alcohol down. Like that's the most prevalent. But so recovery means to me is about changing my attitudes, my behaviors, changing my perceptions about myself and others and the way I view the world and focusing on my problems and helping others through theirs, but more so focusing on mine to get better with myself. There's a lot more to it than just not using substance, man. You know, and not causing harm in men in relationships. I can go on and go on what recovery means to me, right? But in the beginning, it was simple, like more simple, like don't use, don't pick up, right? Let's focus on today and get through today. And sometimes that can go also in long-term recovery too. Like, let me get through today. Don't let me pick up, don't let me cause harm, and let me get through today. You know? Mm. So that was our meeting for the day. I said earlier, my name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Camp Recovery Center. Until next time, we'll see you later.